All right. Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here. My name is Iran, and we're all ready to learn here, right? So we started off the day with something easy, right? Privacy Sandbox. It's pretty straightforward. I just recently moved to the US, which means that I have a lot of things to be excited about. But out of many things, I'm excited that the World Cup is coming to the US in 2026, next summer. Now, in 1986, Maradona's Hand of God was a defining moment in soccer's history, not because of its brilliance, but because it highlighted the flaws in the game's rules. But how would this moment look like today? With VAR, every play is scrutinized in real time, changing how we view the game. In marketing, SKAN on iOS introduced whole new shifts into how marketers approach measurement and attribution. And now with Privacy Sandbox, the game is evolving once again. Having worked at the attribution space for almost a decade, leading products across the measurement stack, I've witnessed firsthand how challenging these shifts can be for marketers. Understanding the complexities and the frustrations that they drive marketers while still driving results. So the big question is, Privacy Sandbox, is this SKAN all over again? First of all, a spoiler alert. We're not going to talk about Google advertising IDs, not because we don't know what's going to happen with them, but because they're entirely out of scope of Privacy Sandbox. Number two, it's happening. The technology that enables Privacy Sandbox already exists on Android devices globally. And number three, as with any privacy-preserving framework, we're going to be talking about the usual suspects: limitations, bits, aggregate data, the whole shebang. We are living in the privacy-first era. Every few months, a new regulation or policy comes along that changes how we work as marketers. Whether it's GDPR, CCPA, ATT, SKAN, or yet another privacy framework. We know that whenever a new acronym comes out, marketers immediately fear the impact it will have on their business. All these restrictions, limitations, compliance, and policies really impact our ability to innovate with technology. But with Sandbox, it's different. The approach with Sandbox is privacy first. It creates an environment with many different building blocks that ad tech partners can use to build innovative solutions on top of their own infrastructure. Sandbox introduces four main modules: SDK runtime, which is an isolated execution space for SDKs within apps; Topics API, which exposes various targeting use cases; and Protected Audiences, which exposes different segmentation capabilities for marketing purposes. And finally, we have the Attribution Reporting API, which is the Privacy Sandbox Attribution Reporting Framework. And this is what we'll be breaking down together today. Ready to geek out? Starting off with attribution. Attribution on Privacy Sandbox is on-device attribution. What does this mean? Every ad interaction or conversion event is stored securely on the device itself, without storing identifiers, without storing personal information, and with no ability to share data between partners. Once we have an ad interaction, it's registered as a source into the Attribution API database, and a conversion timeline starts. We expect the app to be installed, and once it installs, the app can start recording triggers or conversion events. These could be installs, of course, but also regular in-app events. Privacy Sandbox matches these triggers to the registered sources. So basically on device, we have many pairs of sources and triggers that are accessible only to the Privacy Sandbox framework. And from an attribution perspective, this all falls into a last touch attribution model. But there are a few caveats, and stay with me, it's going to be a little bit complicated. We have here a typical timeline of interactions across networks. From the ad network perspective, each one of them has their own space into which they store their sources and also the registered triggers. So Meta's touchpoint will be written into the Meta space. But Privacy Sandbox only saves the last ad interaction into that space. The same goes for Unity in this case, and Google Ads. Each partner has visibility into its own performance through Privacy Sandbox. This brings us to the first role of the MMP, providing cross-network, last-touch attribution measurement capabilities. This is by design and baked into the APIs that Privacy Sandbox exposes to the attribution provider. The way this works is that the MMP integrates with ad networks, which gives us the ability to register the exact same sources as the different ad partners. So in this case, FB Ad 1 for Meta will be registered into the AppsFlyer space along with all the other networks touchpoint. But we will have visibility, just like every ad network, into the last touchpoint, which allows us to provide back to marketers the cross-network last winning touch. So now that we understand how attribution works, let's understand how reporting works. There are two types of reports: event-level reports that are for ad networks, and aggregatable reports that are not ready-made reports yet. They require a lot of heavy lifting to operationalize. But these are what we'll be using to create measurement reports back for advertisers. And it's not that simple. There are billions of devices worldwide generating millions of reports on a daily basis. Reports that need to be collected and then batched according to the framework that Privacy Sandbox required, sent over to a cloud-trusted execution environment where we get back encrypted reports, have to decrypt them, and only then we have something that we can provide back to marketers. Sounds complicated? Believe me, it is. It took us months of work to work within the framework that Privacy Sandbox introduces, with a lot of heavy lifting, and it's very computational intensive. This brings us to the second role of the MMP, owning all the complexity that comes with Privacy Sandbox into enabling accurate measurement reporting. In an ideal world, that will be all you need to know about Privacy Sandbox. But it's not going to be that easy because we are still in the privacy-first era. Alongside a privacy framework, we're always going to have privacy protections that we will need to navigate through. Starting off with the basics, there are no IDs and everything is encoded in bits. But Sandbox also introduces additional data limitations: conversion windows, contribution budgets, and noise. In the old days, we could measure whatever we wanted, whenever we wanted. But then SKAN came along and changed how we approach measurement with conversion windows. By limiting the granularity of what we can measure within specific time windows. And if we think about it, we can describe SKAN as an aggressive diet, with the first postback being your main meal of the day, and the second and third postbacks being snacks to just keep you going. How does Privacy Sandbox approach conversion windows? First of all, we have the exact same conversion windows, but with a limit of up to 30 days. So any conversion can be measured within these 30 days, which gives us the ability to measure longer conversion funnels. But it's not an all-you-can-eat buffet. A new concept that is introduced in Privacy Sandbox is contribution budget. Now, this has nothing to do with your ad spend. You don't need to go to your finance team and ask for more contribution budget. But you can think about this like tokens that you have to leverage to maximize the granularity and accuracy of reporting. This means that when we're looking at the 30-day window, we can't measure anything we want. There will be a limit on the amount of data that we can capture. Taking this back to the diet analogy, we basically have a limit to a certain amount of calories that we can have. We can eat whatever we want within the day, as long as we don't go over the calorie budget. Privacy Sandbox provides us with building blocks that give us flexibility, but all within a predefined set of boundaries. From the marketer's perspective, this means that you have the flexibility to choose what you want to focus your measurement on. If short-term signals are important for you, you can choose to focus your measurement by allocating more contribution budget towards those events. But if your meaningful events happen further down the funnel, if this is a registration event or a subscription event, you can choose to allocate this budget towards those events as well. But this also means we have to be very mindful into how we approach the way we use the contribution budget. If we overmeasure events, we will overuse our contribution budget and lose visibility into later on in-app events. If we undermeasure events, we will be basically leaving money or signals on the table. Sandbox gives us the opportunity to focus on the most important events to us, be those in-app events or revenue events, in the times that are most appropriate for us within the 30-day window. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is the noise factors that Privacy Sandbox introduces. Noise basically comes to protect user privacy by introducing a random amount of fake data. And to understand this a little bit better, we have to understand the concept of crowd anonymity, which is a basic concept in privacy-preserving technologies. Crowd anonymity basically means that it's much harder to remain anonymous when the cohort is small. SKAN approached this with null values. When the cohort is small, we lose visibility into everything that that cohort is doing. Sandbox uses noise to approach crowd anonymity, but it applies it to both large and small data sets, which means we will still have measurement for smaller data sets, but with noise that impacts the outputs. It's important to understand that noise is also added to installs, as they are treated the same as every other conversion event. And the more granular reporting is, the more events breakdowns we have, the more campaign granularity we have, the more impact of noise we have on the results. In this example, we have a lot of signups, so the impact of noise might be negligible. But if we go further down the funnel, we will have more impact of noise on the results. And if we take this further, there can be cases where 100% of the metrics will be noise, if we're looking at events that rarely or maybe even never convert. But noise is not just impacted by the number of events that we are measuring, but also at the granularity of media that we are reporting on. So while at the media source and campaign level, we have a manageable amount of noise, if we increase the reporting granularity to the ad set level, we now have a lot more noise impacting the accuracy of results. How do we at AppsFlyer handle noise? This brings us to the third role of the MMP, optimizing the reporting breakdown and measurement structure to minimize the impact of noise on the results. One way we tackle this at AppsFlyer is through complex algorithms. Now, no pictures, this is all super secret sauce. But in all seriousness, one way we approach this is by scaling up metrics by leveraging unused contribution budgets. So the way you think about it, you don't need to maximize all the contribution budget that you have available. You need to leave some of it available for your MMP to leverage into the way that we approach noise minimization. Another aspect is by providing confidence intervals into the specific metrics so that advertisers can understand the accuracy of the results. But you also have the ability to manage noise through business decisions and trade-offs that you can take. If you encounter too much noise, you can increase user acquisition spend or consolidate campaigns. This is best practice that we are also familiar with from SKAN. But Sandbox also introduces flexibility around reporting frequency. If we generate reports on an hourly basis, we might not have enough data, and therefore the impact of noise might be a lot bigger. But if we increase reporting frequency to a daily or maybe even weekly frequency, we'll have much more data and therefore less impact of noise. We can also reduce the number of events that we measure or prioritize high-converting events. And finally, for the same considerations, we can minimize the campaign breakdowns that we are requesting for measurement purposes. So if this is your dashboard today, with all the different breakdowns and all the different event granularities, you'll soon realize that under Privacy Sandbox, you have a lot of noise that you can't really work with to understand your performance. You'll have to compromise if it's on event breakdowns, campaign granularity, or consolidating campaigns. But you'll eventually be left with a much smaller report that you can work with that has a higher level of accuracy. Easy peasy, right? Who here is now contemplating their career choice and maybe thinking about a career change at this stage? All right, cool. Great to see you all on board. So this was packed. Let's bring it all together. Privacy Sandbox is an on-device measurement approach that uses a last-touch attribution methodology, which is very technologically heavy and requires a lot of heavy lifting to operationalize. But it introduces flexibility into how we approach measurement, flexibility which in its turn introduces noise. Noise that we can manage with compromising with the different levers that are available to us. And we are here to continue to lead the way, working with Google as a design partner, sounding the voice of our customers with regards to measurement and attribution. We already have a beta environment where you can test Privacy Sandbox traffic alongside your existing traffic today. We'll take care of the heavy lifting that goes together with Privacy Sandbox, minimizing noise and optimizing reporting. And by starting today, you can get a head start and be ready for Privacy Sandbox once it rolls out. We'll work hard to make sure that you have all the tools and capabilities that you need to navigate yet another privacy framework. The hand of God was a unique moment in soccer history. It was a reminder of how imperfect systems can shape outcomes. VAR didn't replace the game. It changed the way we experience it. In the same way, Privacy Sandbox isn't here to break marketing. It's here to change the way we think. It's here to change the way we strategize. It's here to change the way we measure. Change is never easy, but history has shown us that those that adapt not only thrive, but survive. The question is, how would you play smarter and act faster? Thank you.